Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Money Talk, brought to you by Bartelle's Financial Coaching. I am Theresa Bartelle, financial coach,
I'm Johnny Bartelle, spouse and business manager.
and we would like to welcome you to our channel. Tonight, we will be speaking with Ben and Victoria, and they will be sharing some of their money lessons throughout their marriage. If you enjoy the content, I ask that you subscribe to my channel, like it, and every Thursday we will be coming back to do the Money Talk. Thank you again, and sit back and enjoy the show. Hi, Ben and Victoria. How y'all doing?
Oh, we're blessed. How you guys doing tonight?
We
We
are
blessed
doing
too.
so good. And first of
Yes.
all, we want to welcome y'all to the Money Talk. We're so glad that y'all were obligated and y'all were kind enough to share your time with us. So thank y'all for joining us.
And thanks for having us.
Thank
You are welcome. And so, Ben, we're going to start with you. If you can give us a little bit about yourself, maybe your childhood, and then we'll move on over to Victoria.
Okay. Well, my name's Ben. I grew up in the inner city up in Pennsylvania and in Philadelphia, and it was growing up. It was tough, and it was my father was a pastor, so when it came to financial literacy and understanding finances, he taught us to work hard. Be a hard worker. Growing up, so. I learned as I started working, not really working a regular job. So at 7 years old, my older brother would take me out to shine shoes. And I didn't know what I was doing. I would shine and go down to the city and ask the guy, "Can I shine your shoes?" And he would give me a quarter, 50, however much, and he would let me get on there. I wasn't doing anything right, but I always had a working mentality as a very young age, and I grew up, became a big shovel snow. I always wanted to have my own money at a young age. Buy my own things. That even in elementary, middle school, I was, do my best to have my own money because that's what my father, taught us. I always, I had a paper route, shovel. I played sports, tried to do good in school, but I always had a job and try to make my own money. But that's pretty much, just work hard, money. We never was taught. We had mentors at the boys club and about going to college and different things, but we never had people really talking to us about finances. So I didn't really know, about saving and of course not investing, just to work hard. Never about save anything. That was the gist of it. Just work hard and try to have your own money. And that's how I grew up.
Okay. And then how about you, Victoria?
Well, I came up pretty much with a single mom. My dad passed when I was like 7 years old. And I'm the youngest of 9 siblings. And the good part about that is I never really looked at it as being poor because I was always provided for. And I think with that, what I learned was to make do and be content and happy with what I had.
Okay, so your mom never remarried while she was raising y'all?
No, not at all.
So how
So I
many?
learned to appreciate whatever money that we had and never looked at it as it not being enough. Just learn to do the best I had with whatever it is that I had.
Okay, and so how many children did your mom raise as a single mom?
9. Was it about 9 of us?
About 9, yes.
4
9.
girls and 5 boys.
5 boys, yep.
And
By
believe it or
myself.
not one day I felt broke. Not one day.
Wow. Oh, well,
Yeah.
look, did your mom work a job, or she just never complained about not having enough?
She never complained at all. She would work, but it wouldn't be like jobs that you could retire from.
Right.
It would just be jobs as like maybe helping someone with their home or something of that nature.
Mhm.
But coming up like that, I never felt like I didn't have enough, and I never felt that we were poor.
Wow. Okay.
So I learned at an early age to be appreciative.
Okay. You want to ask anything? That was very
Yeah,
interesting.
that is. I want to ask Ben because he said something like he was doing introduction there and about finances. He said he didn't really was taught about finances. How did you learn about finances, Ben?
I'm gonna tell you the truth. It was a friend let me back up a little. I had a friend in high school, and he taught me about saving a little. Now he was a very good saver. He taught me a little bit about put some money up, to make it last, how to save till the next paycheck. Not spending it. We was teenagers now, 14, 15, and then high school. He taught me how to do that. But as far as then I went joined the Air Force after that, and then I lived paycheck to paycheck for years. So I never had that initiative to want to save. I just didn't. I just spent everything that I had. I just thought that was the right thing to do. If it was gone, I just waited till the 15th or the first. You know how the military go the first and the 15th. So it might last to about the 5th or 6th. So I would struggle until the 15th and even back then, when I was in the Air Force, you can go and get an advance pay on your upcoming check. So you can get your commander to write you a letter, say, I need $200 out of my paycheck before I get paid. And I would do things like that just to catch up.
Okay, so now how about you, Victoria? Did you live paycheck to paycheck? Like before y'all got married?
I never even looked at it that way. When I just heard him say struggle, it never felt like a struggle to me.
Yeah, that helped a lot.
Yeah, I never felt like I struggled with nothing. So I literally learned at an early age that I was okay with whatever money I had. Just do not mess it up, but be okay with what you have.
Wow. So like before you got married.
Struggle, I never felt a struggle. Not one day in my life being married, I never felt a struggle.
Hey, let me tell you, it got to a time when we get to that. When we first got married, we got together, and I would look in the cabinet and say, "We're down to struggle food."
I would say, "No, there's plenty to eat."
I would call it struggle food. I say, "Hey, we're struggling." I'm telling you.
You said
that I would call struggle food because it wasn't what I wanted in there, so I had to struggle. Hey, I'm telling you, those days were rough to me. But she was always from the time we met in 1984. We met until today. She always was content.
And I've never seen struggle food. If I'd seen it, I didn't recognize it because it was just food.
Right.
Okay.
So,
how long have y'all been married?
We've been married since this past June made 37 years.
Oh, wow. So now, Victoria, before you married Ben, like, did you have your own job or did you stay home with your mom before you got married? How did that transition work?
I was with my mom. I was 17 when I met him. So he's all that I know. I went from my mother's home straight into his. So really, when I look at it, I didn't even, and this is a blessing to me. Thank the Lord for that. I never even really had an opportunity to struggle because I went straight from being taken care of to being taken care of. But I've always worked. I just never had to struggle, and that alone is a blessing. Literally, I'm 17 years old, just barely turning. I actually turned 18 after I met him.
Wow.
And as I growing up, my father always taught to take care because my father always taught take care of your family. Because if I could tell one thing, he took care of his family, and he showed me, and I picked right up on it. So when I met her. Yeah, I jumped right on. We wasn't even married and I was taking care of her. I was spoiling her. Yeah, and until from the time we met until as we speak, I spoiled my wife with when I say spoiled, just always provided for the things that she enjoyed. I really did. And I was just taught that by my father.
And to this day, I don't know what it's like to not have that. I never had the opportunity, again, thank God for that, to be without it because to this day, I've never had to hit a light switch, and I'm 56 to not know what it's to even know what it's like to not have the lights come on. I've never had to struggle like that. So, like I said, I went from my mom straight to him, and of course, I worked through the years up until recently. So, when people talk about struggling in that, all I can tell them is trust God because I don't know. I honestly do not know.
That goes back to mentality, boy. Financial mentality is more important than finances itself. Like she's down giving her testimony about never had a mentality of struggle. Never.
Even when I look back at it, when I did not have a lot, it still wasn't a struggle.
Because how you was raised with your mom, and she didn't allow y'all to even feel the struggle. If she did, you didn't know about it. because she didn't allow y'all to kind of to feel that.
I was always okay. I never, as a child, I never even remember going to McDonald's or to Burger King and stuff like that. But it never hit me as, why can't I go? So I knew my mom made sure that it didn't hit me that way.
Wow. So when you was growing up, did your mom talk about finances? Did you hear anyone in your family talk about finances?
Not at all. My mom taught us to be okay with what we had. We never was taught to like save for the future. You know, back then they only taught us what they could teach us, because they didn't even know. Some of them didn't even have a clue themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so true.
Yes.
And so
they can only teach us what they know.
That's right. And back then they didn't know a whole lot.
Yeah, right.
No.
And they didn't seek out to learn a whole lot. And then back then they didn't have the access either.
Correct.
To get the knowledge.
Right.
And I say this with love in my heart. God knows I do. But when I look back over the years when we were coming up, what they did know is to produce children. They know how to do that. So you had mothers and fathers back then spitting babies out like watermelon seeds.
Yeah.
But they was not financially storing up. So those of us, a lot of us who came up in that era, this is our mindset like I have now.
Right. Wow. And so that is good. And so like Ben, when you was growing up, and I've heard you mention your dad, did your family talk about finances? Like sometime like on a Sunday when everybody came over, did you hear them talk about finances?
No, none at all. Nothing. Like I said earlier, we talked about working hard, and my dad kind of taught to be self-sufficient, go out, make things happen for yourself, even at a very young age. But as far as talking about finances, no. Like I said, my father, he didn't know. So like my wife was saying, he couldn't tell me about what he didn't know. And they didn't even teach.
That's right.
All they taught you, was like, even in the church, they taught you, they never talked about finances at all. Never. And even back then we were forced to go to church, which was cool, but you never heard anything about financial literacy. Nothing.
Wow.
And if they had been taught that, many of us probably wouldn't even be here today, because they would have known 9, 10, and 15 children can't make it on a farmer's salary.
Right.
Oh, amen.
Amen. Yeah, so they weren't, you can tell by their lifestyle, even though they did the best they could with all of us, you can tell they didn't know, because there's no way that someone in their right minds would know about finances than have 6 and 7 mouths that you cannot feed.
Girl,
that's powerful.
That is powerful. But you know what?
That's
back
powerful.
Then, they didn't know. And then, like, because you bring that up, I'm like, well, did they know anything about birth control back then? Because I was raised in in the 70s, basically.
Yeah.
And my grandmother, she was raised, I guess, in the 40s or something, maybe in the 30s. And she had like 6. And like you see, they had to struggle. They just had all these babies.
That's why you had so many Black farmers. They were forced to do it because they didn't know about birth control. They didn't even know about finances, So they had to feed those kids somehow. So here comes the Black farmer.
Yeah.
Right. And because they didn't know, it just trickled on down the line, really, to us.
Yeah, right. That's where if you didn't take the time out to try to learn about finances when you did get old enough, then guess what? That would be a same trap that you fall in out through your adult life,
right?
Because they didn't know, they couldn't teach you what they didn't know, and then that would fall on you, and that would fall on your children. So it's almost like it was passing from generation to generation, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yes, but G, so
yes.
I know you said your father didn't say anything about finances, and when you got in the military, you kind of knew a little bit about finances. So what was your turning point for you to kind of figure out, okay, I need to know about finances? What was your turning point?
I kind of took it. My turning point probably took place, might have been my late 20s, early 30s, where I really nothing about investing or none of those, but to start saving. I had a family, and I learned, that I was responsible for them. So I had to put money up, even though I, as like in the military, started getting a little rank, so things started getting a little easier. So the turning point for me, we still there, even in the military, as you know, and we didn't talk about finances a whole lot at all. We just talked about, hey, I got entitlements, I got medical, I got TRICARE and all this. We was content with the benefits, having some money in the bank and traveling and all. We're in the military, so we would talk more about in the military. All I cared about was being secure, not the financially secure, but medically and having a place to stay for my family. But it was really, and having a few $1,000s in the bank. Hey, I made it. That was my mindset. Hey, I got $3,000 or $4,000 in the bank. We're not struggling. We got a car. And back then, we didn't know what it was to have multiple cars. We just have one car. Now, oh, have mercy. It's just me and my wife now. We got 4 of them. We don't know. We like, come on. But back then we had one car, but we made do with everything that we had. And that was a blessing. But I didn't really get a hold of my finances until later on. Yeah, where you can really see a little financial freedom versus security. I was all right. I was just okay with a few $1,000s and
Yeah. So what burning question that I have for you is, okay, Miss Victoria, she never knew what it was to struggle. Right. But you talked about check to check and how you did the best you could, to make sure she had some of the things she wanted. So was there any point in your marriage or relationship to where you really couldn't afford to do it, but you did do the things that she wanted you to do, but then the finances got tight, but you protected her from that?
Well, I just can't. Like she goes back to, she was always content, whatever it was that I did for her, she was always okay with that. So it was never, for me, sometimes, I might have kept it from her that I felt a little struggle. So because when I was in the Air Force, little story, we was stationed in South Dakota. And, out there it's so cold. And I was working on the flight line with the pilots. And my wife was how old? She's about 20 and our child was 1 year old. And I got stuck on a flight line for 3 days in the snow. I couldn't get home. I don't know if my wife was alive or dead. Our baby was alive or dead. So the guy talked me out. He said, hey, man, just get out the Air Force for 90 days and then they'll let you back in, which was false. So I got out and I said, well, man, and then finding out the Air Force said, no, buddy, you're not coming. We're not letting you. But I stayed in the Air Force Reserve. I went into the reserve right out of active duty. But then I did. So I got out there and I said, oh, man, they're not letting me back in. So to my mind, I went back, well, I got to get something with some benefits. See, my mom, I always thought about benefits more than the money. And then I know I was a go-getter. I'd make it happen. So I got a job with the state of South Carolina and worked in the prison system. And in the prison system, you only work 14 days out the month, 12-hour shifts, and you work that rotating shift thing. And it was just, and working in the prison, it was more mental than physical. You got physical with them guys. It was all about respecting one another. And then, so I worked in the prison. I was in the Air Force Reserves and I worked part-time. So I had to hustle to get it, which I didn't mind. I always taught them go get it. So my wife knew I never, before I went back into the military, I always had 2.5 jobs, full-time job, part-time job, and the Air Force Reserve. So I always made it happen for my family, always. So when you put those paychecks together, it was more than I was making in the military anyway. So it always worked out for us.
Well, what I want to know is, which I'm betting that the audience want to know too, what did you call struggle food?
Oh my! Hey, I don't know where we came up. I came up with that so strong. Oh my. When you go out to get groceries, you go to commissary, wherever you go, and you get everything that you want, and you get what you want with the kids, and then now that stuff begins to get low, and now it's gone. But I don't have the money to go replenish until I get paid. So now we're struggling. So
when it was that,
So, it's struggle food to me with the stuff that I really wanted that wasn't in the refrigerator. I might the goods, the sweets, all the other stuff, whatever. And, if it was gone and I didn't have the money to go back and get it right away, whatever was left over, like noodles and all that was struggling to me. I didn't want noodles and hot dogs. I wanted everything that I enjoyed because I'll be honest with you, I grew up like that. When I grew up, even at a young age, I could go to McDonald's every day because I get out there and hustle. I could stand on the corner and hustle up $5 in about 5 minutes, in less than that, because we were taught to hustle. We were hustlers back then. In any area, we just hustle. And I was taught that at a young age, all the way up until the day I just know how to go get it. So it's just so like I said, back then I could go to McDonald's. When growing up, where I'm from, we grew up on cheese. I could eat out every day. I didn't have to wait and go home to eat my mom's cookies. We could go out and eat. And I was only 10, 11, 12 years old. And we were making it happen because that's how we were taught, to get out there and hustle. So we were hustlers in the city, yeah. But you got to understand as well, everybody in the city, their parents are from down here. My father's from Dillon. My mother's from Fayetteville. So everybody up north is from the South. Everybody's connected down here. But we were taught that city mentality. My wife can tell you, when we drive through the city, and then she understood why I was like I was, because your environment shapes you. And our environment taught us how to hustle. So, even in I was a good student. I always was good. I even was a math tutor in high school, but I also sold weed. So I was a math tutor, a good student.
Wait, say that again. What did you do?
Be honest with you. My wife can tell you. Say it again.
What did you do? We need to hear that again.
Oh, in high school, yeah. I worked a part-time job as a janitor at an elementary school.
No, back up. What did you used to sell? What did you say you used to sell?
I sold marijuana in high school. I sure did. Hey, and we were just taught. I wasn't a smoker, so a lot of, even in middle school, high school, a lot of the kids smoke. So I would buy 2-3 packs of Newports and sell single cigarettes and make my money back easy. Yeah, I always hustled. I was a hustler, trust me. So my wife can tell you, even when I was in the military, I was a loan shark. She tells, even when I worked in the prison, I was a loan shark, loaning out money. I always made that money turn. I surely did. I was a hustler.
He was. You got any questions?
Wow. I can't believe it. That struggle food.
Look, selling weed.
Selling weed, yeah.
Yeah, and like for you, Victoria, like when the money got tight, did you realize the money got tight and you had a good attitude about it, or you really didn't know the money was tight?
I really didn't know, because we still had lights, we still had food, all of my needs and the children's needs were met. Yeah. We still had a car. I don't ever recall payments being missed. If it was, I didn't know. So yeah, I really can say I don't feel that we ever had a struggle ever.
Okay, so that makes another question. So in y'all's household, does Ben manage the finances?
He does.
Okay.
Absolutely. He's stronger at it. When you got someone who doesn't feel a struggle, I don't know if it's good for them to manage.
With us growing up, even and a lot of, I don't know the audience and Johnny, because me and my brother there, Chief, we had a very good relationship in the military. I even remember the time, we had to talk about some good things, and I remember the time you guys sold a car into somebody's life. It was a blessing. That thing blessed my heart. So if you go back, it's just, for me, even though for her, she worked. Now, when she worked and managed her own money, but I still pay, even though she could help me, I still paid all the bills. I paid her car payment. I paid the mortgage. I paid everything. Even though she had the money to assist me, I still said, no, that money is yours. You keep that and I'll cover down. Now, a lot of husbands, I can say, she knows that. A lot of men probably will not do that. But it was in my heart to do that. All the time, I said, I don't want her to pay for anything. Okay. And I just want to be able to do that and keep your money. That's your money. Do whatever you want, buy clothes, whatever you choose to do. Now, there came times she did help me. Don't get me wrong. But the majority of the time, her money was hers all the time.
But you know what, G? What's funny you said that, because growing up, that's what you kind of, at least I know I did growing up, that's what I saw as well. Where the dad took care of everything, right?
Everything.
So now when you see some of the generation now, where you're talking about half, we 50-50.
Right.
I'm like, what? 50-50?
Yes.
What does that mean? No. So So it's kind of like that's kind of like new to me to see something like that, right? Because we
Right.
were brought up a different way. But gee,
Right.
so tell me then, since you manage the finances, and tell me some of your techniques. I mean, do you do a budget? Do you how do you go about managing,
You
your
mean as
finances?
far as how I do it today
Yeah.
or along the way?
Well, you can start from a longer way up to the day. How did that happen?
Well, now, like I said, back then we would take our when we first got married, you get your paycheck and you just write everything down that you owed and whatever system they call that and then you pay everything out. And if she wasn't working and we overseas somewhere and a lot of time she stayed home and took care of the kids. I gave her gave her whatever, put what he had, put some in the bank, and then just go from there. And then as time go on, now that we have all this technology, you do it how you do it. But I'm gonna tell you today, as well, there's a key word that got us in the position we are today. That God gave me the revelation some years ago is preparation.
Hmm.
Prepare.
Break that down, G. Break that down.
Preparation, as you understand, life doesn't always. You don't always get in life what you want, but most of the time you will get what you prepare for.
That's
you will.
right.
Like that.
That's right.
Trust me, preparation is the key, and I got that revelation. I think it was a little bit prior that we met in the military. So I prayed about it. I said, you know what, God, I don't want to have to work past a certain age, which was my goal was 55. And he said to me, I was in my 30s. He said, start preparing. Now, the preparation, see, a lot of people in this generation, they want the fruits of life, but they reject the process. There's a process to this thing.
Woo, that's to the
I'm
power.
talking about even church folks, they want the fruit, but there's a process that they reject, so they'll never see it.
Okay, now I want you to hold that thought because that's very, very important for our audience. I'm going to need you to elaborate on that a little bit more, but I need to hit Victoria with a question real quick that I think the audience needs to hear her perspective for the young ladies. So Victoria, can you tell me what your feelings are about the 50-50 when you got this man or this husband and he's wanting the wife to contribute 50-50 when it comes to the finances?
I think if it can be done, then do it, because a lot of people don't have the mindset that we have, because we came up in different eras, I guess you can say.
Yes,
So you got women now who really don't mind going 50-50 because a lot of them can afford to do it. Absolutely. And especially if you have a man or a husband that's not able to pay everything. Absolutely. And if there are times when you need to pay it all, pay it all. So I don't really have an issue with the 50-50.
Oh, well, see, that's powerful because nowadays, a lot of women, they are doing the 50-50, but then some of the women who may be maybe our age, they'll be like, well, what you mean 50-50? It's your responsibility to take care of me. No, I'm not helping you take care of me because that's your job.
Right.
But you're saying really and truly, like if you marry a man and if you love him and if he needs your help and your support, and if you're able to do that.
Absolutely. If he needs your help and support, absolutely. You do for him exactly what you expect him to do for you.
Right.
Wow. Now, see, that's powerful because you won't believe I anticipated you saying, no, he married you. He need to take care of you. So you have given me an answer that I really did not expect. And I hope the answer that you've given now will help other women, because some women, they judge a guy or a man, a good man, by how much money he makes. So if he don't make enough money, it don't matter how good he is. Boo, I don't want you because you can't take care of me. So I really like what you said. Now, if you got anything else that you want to add to encourage women to where if they meet a good guy, but he don't really make this $100,000 a year.
Well, if you don't get him, somebody will. If he's not, if you're judging his love for you by what he's making, leave him alone. Bless the next sister. She'll be glad you felt that way.
Oh, girl. Now that was good. That was good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Leave them alone.
Mm.
The next sister be so glad that you felt that way.
Yeah.
And
And
they
you know,
get
this,
all the benefits from your
Victoria,
from your
that
loss.
is so good
Yeah.
because like talking to y'all is giving me like a different perspective because I never even thought about that way. Okay, you meet a good guy, he a hardworking guy, he honest, and you don't want him because he don't make six figures. You know what you just said. You don't have to take him.
That's
Guess
right.
right.
what? Somebody
Leave
else
him
will.
for the next woman who will appreciate him. You got some of the best guys out here who will make awesome husbands who's probably driving a trash truck.
That's right. Good one.
So if you're basing your love on the kind of shoes he can buy you, you need to keep walking and let that woman get him who will really appreciate him.
So in other words, you looking at the material and not looking at the heart.
You looking at the material and you're losing a good man.
There it is.
Hey, because you know, there's a God out there. You know what his name is? Thank God we come from a good generation, because a lot of our young people today, they worship the God of materialism.
There
They
it
worship.
is.
They go to
They
the
do.
altar, and the altar of materialism, because that's how they put value in themselves based on what they have,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how they value themselves.
Yes,
And
yes.
you can, especially you can watch these young people how they live, and everything's about what they have, and it's really sad. But even though she was, I've never a lot the things you guys are hearing her say. This is who she is. And I always used to a funny thing I would tell my wife for years. I would say, "Hey, baby, if you ever left me, I'm coming with you."
Yeah, that's all
I don't know where it is. And you go, I'm going too. Yep. If he go, I'm going
We
too.
going together.
Yeah.
I'm going too. And there's another one. That's the truth. And there's another, and I don't know if Johnny remembers, we were still in the military together. And it was he and I and a guy, he was a first sergeant. And we were talking about having a biblical discussion. And I said, there was something, I said, Johnny, is there something in you that says, you'll be with your spouse forever? And only 3 of us said yes. It was him, myself, and another guy, which is the first sergeant. And we were like, yeah, it just, you got that, God gives you that knowledge, just it's thing inside of you that says, yes, regardless, we'll always be together.
Thank you.
right.
That's right. That's right.
You just know, and I know you guys know so many people, marriages have broken and divorced because of finances. And that's
Yes.
the sad thing. Yeah.
Yes.
And now the younger generation, everything is based on finance. It's not based on love. They don't care as long as you can support me. And
Right.
that's sad.
Right.
It really is.
It is. It is sad. And so that's why I need you to go back to the preparation part.
Yes.
Can you give the audience,
okay, for us. Okay, so when I thought about when I had a, God said start preparing. Okay, a part of that preparation was, of course, being financially secure. So, like myself, we stayed in the military till we retired. All right, now make sure you store up, do some, and I'm gonna tell you a great investment is life insurance. Make sure you have a whole bunch of life insurance for your family. That's part of preparation.
Mm-hmm.
You're just paying for money. And then part of that, try to make an investments. And my wife and I, we have 2 properties. And the blessing, I'm telling you, real quick, before I finish, we had a widow young lady who lost her husband. And the Holy Spirit spoke to us and tell us to get a home for her. Had nothing brand new, just help her get somewhere to stay. And she's still in that property. Until this day, we have charged her not one dime. And we let her live there for free.
And help her maintain
and help her
when things are broken down, because she's a low-income widow. So
right.
When things are broken and need fixing, we also try to reach out that way also.
Right.
And you can only be that way when money doesn't rule you.
Right.
Oh, hold up. Back up. You got to say that one more time.
You can only give that much of yourself when money doesn't rule you. When money rules you, you keep it as close to you as possible.
Right.
When it doesn't rule you, you're able to do stuff like that. That's why God knows those of us who are willing to do those things.
That's right. And my wife would tell you, for 15, my father passed away in August. And when he retired, my father wasn't, and I didn't know, but my father, when he retired, he wasn't prepared. I always had a good job. Growing up north, where you worked in the production plants, they had unions where they made a lot of money. I remember my dad making $400 or $500 a week in the 70s, which is a lot of money.
That's a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But he never stored up, and he just didn't. So it was a time came about 20 years ago. I went to my father. I said, Dad, can I help you? And he said, yes. So the most important thing it wasn't the money I gave my father every month. She was okay with it. Because if the wife doesn't agree with it, you can't do it. So I went to her and said, hey, I'm going to help my dad out. And she said, go ahead and help your dad. So for 15 years, I helped my dad out every month for 15 years up until he got, kind of bedridden until he passed away. God allowed us to help him for 15 years straight and never complained about it. Now, I thank God I was able to do it. And that was through preparation, storing up my money. And if I didn't do that, I couldn't have did it. Or we didn't prepare and get your little IRAs and different stuff and money man, saving your money, get the few properties. But the most keyest thing is preparation. Because for us, for my wife and I, our time is more valuable than money.
Say it again. Say it one more time.
We stopped working, and when she stopped working, she was 51 and I was 55. We haven't worked a day since because we got together and said our time is more valuable than money. Because I'm gonna give you a saying. I think it's a guy named Christopher Ross. He made his Christopher Wright. He said, every day is a bank account, and time is its currency. No one is rich, no one is poor. We all got 24 hours each. That's why time is more valuable than money. That's why we stopped working and said we're going to be content with what we have, and there's no struggle. But now, of course, if I had to work, if she wanted to stop working, I had to go back to work. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But through preparation and contentment, we can sit here every day and say, no, that's it.
Yeah, but Ben, okay, so I need you and Victoria to tell the audience, to tell the young people,
okay,
what did y'all do to prepare? So when she got 51, she left her job and say, bye, y'all. And then when you turn 55 or whatever, you like, bye, y'all. How did y'all prepare to do this?
I'm gonna tell you, of course, we got this. We got the, you got a few incomes coming in from different places. That's the key. Okay, so you got the rental property, you have your military retirement, you also have your what is that called? Your VA money. That's a big help as well from when you got, and you also have that. So you got a few different streams of income coming, passive income, which is you go out there and make it happen for yourself. Plus you have a large amount of money saved up. If she could tell you, when I was going TDY all them times, I was storing that money up. Now I wasn't, a lot of people go TDY and whatever you go, they get back and spend. No, I was storing that money up for now. I started preparing, storing money up. So you got a large amount of money in the bank. Plus you have those 3 or 4 different incomes coming in every month. So then you don't have to, if you choose not to, you don't have to work. Now I can go back tomorrow if I chose to, back to a job I was with and start working soon. But they called me not long ago, say, hey man, you want to come back to work? I said, no, I'm okay.
So did you?
I left, and that's close to 6. That's not less than, not a whole lot less than 6 figures. Walked away from it.
Wow, because you could. But now, did you and Victoria, did y'all plan this out like 10 years before? Did y'all kind of like sit down and had like a table talk and kind of map out everything that y'all needed to do to be able to retire when you got ready?
Yeah, it was long. I think it was longer than that. It takes time. A lot of people, they live with that microwave, man. They want stuff entertained. That's not how it works.
You actually started years and a half.
Long years. Yeah. It took years. Like we said, it took us about 15 to 18 years to get to that point where you can have enough money in the bank where you have the money if things go out. So now when you make purchases, like for her and I, if we need to get stuff, we can borrow the money from ourselves. I don't go to the bank. I'll get it from myself and pay myself back through preparation. Now that's not a house and have, cars or large purchase. That's not everyday purchase. Like if you want to make a large purchase or whatever, get the money from yourself. That's through saving.
So in other words, you skip the verse that says the borrower is servant to the lender because you get it yourself.
Yes. And I'm telling you, all that, and that do preparation, making, like I said, doing things. You know, you're gonna get your military, and then you know these other things gonna come in, and different things begin to come. So you know you're set. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. Come on.
Yeah, we do. And then, like for the audience, because
Right, for the audience.
you and Victoria, y'all have retired. Now,
Right,
you mentioned insurance, life insurance.
right.
So, in the event when God take you home and she's still
Okay,
here,
right.
have you made preparations for her? Like, do
Oh
you?
yeah,
So, if something happens to you, you don't have to
right.
worry about her.
No, because that's where she got large amount of life insurance, and then plus if you invested into the what is that, Johnny? The where the spouse gets a portion of your retirement.
Oh, okay.
The
The
survivor
survival
benefit
benefit.
Private
actually,
benefits
no.
thing and the life insurance plus your spouse gets a she gets a large portion of your VA disability Social
Oh
Security.
yeah.
So if something happened to me, she gets that large amount of life insurance plus three other incomes from retirement, VA, and Social Security. So she'd be set.
Okay, because
Yeah.
that's what some people do. And for our family, sometimes, and I'll just use my own family for example, like when my grandfather passed,
Uh,
he didn't really leave provisions for my grandmother. So, like,
right,
yeah, she can get the Social Security or whatever. But, sometimes when a spouse died, like a husband mainly, they
right,
don't prepare to
Hmm.
make sure that the wife is taken care of if they
right.
die first.
Well, I'll let her answer that for her. She told how I do that when I tell you how I prepare something happened to me as far as getting us prepared. She know. I mean, like I said, what you would have coming to you if I died first.
You mean the different streams of money?
Right, the different streams of money, like I just explained. Her and I, it's not a comfortable conversation, but it's necessary.
Oh,
So her and
yeah.
I
Yeah.
talking, right. So like I said, yeah, same with our parents. They never just they get that Social Security and that's about it. But no, we set up where you get a lot. Like I said, you get a large amount of life insurance, and then the other streams of
Hmm.
income that comes in, plus whatever you already have, set aside for that. So yeah, you want to set your family up. You do.
Right. And that's
Yeah,
very, very important because shoot, we might live until we 95 or 100. And I
that's
don't
right.
want to leave, if he go before me, I don't want to have to be at 85 at Walgreens saying, well, y'all give me a job, and going to the food pantry and all of that.
Right.
Well, you
Yeah.
need to make
We
sure.
see that a lot.
Yeah.
We
Say that
see
again.
we see that a lot where husbands did not store it up for their wives.
Right.
And yeah, I actually have a ministry. It's called the Blessing Ministry,
Right.
where I reach out to low income widows and to the homeless. So just to say that how husbands leave here and not, thinking about their wife being okay. It is sad to see the mess they
Yeah.
leave their wives in. It will blow your mind
Yeah.
to see it. Some literally almost begging for bread in a sense.
Because the husband died first and didn't
didn't
make
leave.
preparations.
Absolutely.
Why?
That's sad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because people look at dying as just dying. But no, sometimes there's a gap before you die where, okay, for someone who's used to working and bringing home the money, okay, your illness could prevent that. So here's years you're lingering without working, without adequate income. Then, okay, you go home to be with the Lord. So really, whatever you had, you wiped it out.
Right.
Then
Oh,
you leave them with nothing.
I see what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. So what
Mhm.
you're saying is like if you get sick and if you do have some money set aside, that illness is going to
Wipe
exhaust
it
your
out.
money.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because
And
you're sick don't mean your bills are going to stop coming.
Yeah.
You're right
So
about that.
if you're sick, you still got to use your savings to pay whatever it is that you have going on, your house note, your car note, your food, all of that stuff.
Right.
It's still going to be there.
okay, and so
So
now
whatever
based
you have in savings is gone. By the time you die, whatever you have in savings, a lot of times it's spent.
And another thing, John Tree, one of the saddest things that my wife and I experienced is, and I know you guys probably, is one thing that, saddens me where you got people where we had to go into our money and help pay for funerals because the person had a job, had money, but didn't have no life insurance.
Oh
And
my
it's sad.
God.
Wow.
Yeah,
My
see
wife
that's
had, yeah, we dealt with that a couple times, and I told my wife, I said that was the last time that we would do that to help somebody that for their neglect that they had no life insurance. I guarantee you got young people, young that don't have any life insurance.
right.
No,
Well, I'm young, so nothing can
It
happen
happened
to
to
me.
me.
Yeah, but for your young, real quick, can I give a testimony for your younger people? So my wife and I were in Charleston a few months back, and we was talking to a young guy, Asian guy. He's 23, and we was talking to him, and he was he was from Tennessee or somewhere. And so we started talking, and he said, well, he was in college for business. He said he dropped out of college. He said, why do I need to go to college? And my family taught me how to run a business. I don't need to go to business college. I already know how to run a business. So we started talking about preparation and retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And he was 23 years old. And he told my wife, and it shocked me. He said, I'm already starting to prepare to retire. This is the honest God truth to you guys. He said, I am 23 and I'm already starting to prepare to retire because I will not work past 40. And it shocked me. I said, hold on, man. He said, I will not work. A 23-year-old told me that he was preparing to retire. So you don't have that. You don't hear that from a lot of, from
You
this.
sure
Oh
don't.
no,
Not
no.
23.
23.
the key word was my parents taught me.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. His
Right.
parents taught him.
Yep. And that thing blessed my heart, man. I share that when we talk to people. I share that with younger people. My wife and I, we talk to a lot of people that just has no financial literacy. They just live in paycheck to paycheck. You know why? But they're committed to it. They're committed. They want it out of poverty, but they're committed to stay there.
Can you say that one more time? I think I need to let the audience hear that again.
Right. Yes. There's so many people that want out of the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, but they leave it unchecked. So it's going to permanently exist because why? They're committed to being broke. They're committed. I want to be prosperous, but I am so committed to being broke. I'm going to stay that way. They're committed to it. They have no drive to come out of it. They're not driven to come out of that lifestyle. I hear what you're saying, but are they going to put it to practice?
They're more driven to win the lottery than to
they-
save for their future.
Right. Driven to be poor and broke. You know, poor. They don't understand the difference between poverty and poor. They don't. They don't understand it.
Oh wow.
Wow. You
Not
know
at
what?
all.
And you know what, G? I think you said the key thing is financial literacy, right?
Right.
And because a lot of times, you know, when you're young, like you said earlier, everybody believes in spend on material things versus how I'm going to leave a legacy.
Exactly.
And really, you start that. You may not think about it, but you kind of started when you're young, so you can leave a legacy when you're not here, right? But a lot of times, you know, people don't really think like that, right? The legacy part of it,
No.
especially if you're young.
Right.
And
That's why that's true. We try to reach people. You know, God showed to reach people where they are, not where we want them to be.
Correct.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. That's true.
That's for especially our young people. You know, it takes time. I always tell my wife, as leaders in the military, you learn that when you supervising people, that some of them just not going to get it. So you have to reach them. So that's in any area of life. You just in the financial realm, you reaching where they are. If they don't commit themselves to it, I mean, you can't help nobody that doesn't want to help that doesn't want to help. So
Right,
like I said,
right.
commitment. It takes commitment.
And so I want to back up a little bit before we close. Like what you and Victoria have seen, where like the illness will exhaust someone's savings, and then the wife is kind of like left destitute. Do y'all have any type of recommendations how couples can prepare in the event that a spouse does get sick and there's a gap before they go home?
And that's going to be, you know what, for me, I mean, if you're older now, say for instance, if you older now, and then there's no other type of money coming in, so what can you do? Because I'm not saying there's no chance, but you have to have faith. But that's just going to be hard to do if you wait till at the end and try to start doing something. But there's no money coming from anywhere else. I mean, how can you? I mean, I don't. I mean, this is good, very good question. But that is that's a burden to put on someone. That now it's getting down. As we get older, our life gets smaller. And so, for somebody to think, well, now what can I do to get more money for? I mean, I don't see how.
You got any ideas, Victoria? Because they recommend now to get long-term care insurance. I think like when you're
Okay, yeah.
50, 55, but a lot of people like where we come from, and a lot of people that would be in our circle, they really, if you're not financially established, a lot of people cannot afford long-term care insurance.
I was
Right.
getting ready to
Yeah.
actually say just that. And we are taught to believe it's never too late, but sadly, sometimes it is too late.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it is too late to plan for your future, because like I said, if you got someone who's died and they never saved or went through everything they had, and here's the woman in her 50s or 60s, how much is she going to save to live on?
Oh wow!
Right.
And that's if she can get a job at that age.
Sometimes
At that
it
age.
really is too late.
Right. It is. It is. And so you all, we're going to be opening up 2024 with your interview. And so in closing, I know that you all have a prosperity like ministry where you go out and you speak at churches. Can y'all give us just a small amount of encouragement and recommendations for people to get their finances in order for 2024?
Okay, you want to start?
Go ahead.
Well, I think especially for I go back to how I said they have to do preparation, a lot of that, and contentment. You have to be serious about your intent to be financially secure, because it takes time. A lot of people don't understand it, but it really takes a lot of time. And just get that in mind. Say, say this is the year. That's why I don't believe in that. Those what are those called? I don't even remember the name of the New Year revolution stuff.
Oh.
I don't believe in any of that stuff. But for our younger people, they just even in any area like there's so much opportunity for these young people that we didn't have.
Oh, it is.
So much. So, and if they start preparing now for their future, and worry about this social media thing has gone and going straight, and a lot of people are so caught up into that. But if they can find, like I said, the key thing I can say, preparation. Things will come along if you prepare for it. It will happen for you if you prepare. It will. That's for the young. That's for anybody.
Right.
Preparation. That's really. I don't want to try to spin it, but that's how I look at it. Through prepare, whatever way you want to take it, it's up to them. Everybody's path is not the same. What principles are.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Principles of life. You probably see the results of it, and that's all I want to say. Preparation. That's the key, and that's what we tell people that we do out there ministering to, doing different, because you can tell. When we should go through the prison ministry, I could tell my wife when I left, I said, I could tell the ones that's going to be right back, because there's no drive. They're not driven to do anything. They want everything given to them. And that's just not how life goes. You got to go get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You got anything?
And I would say get serious about what you do with your money.
Yeah.
About saving money.
That's
About
it.
making plans beyond the grave. Things like that. Sometimes people spend more time on picking out a pair of shoes than they do on planning for their family when they're gone. They don't want to be a burden to them while they're living. So don't leave them in a rut when you're gone. So I would say get serious about that and look past now. A lot of people get caught up in the now, and that leads a lot of people to spend more money than they need to, trying to keep up with the Joneses. And what they don't know is half the Joneses are broke. Half the Joneses are living on credit. Half the Joneses are fake. They're really the Williams.
Right.
The name the Joneses.
Yeah.
So I would say get serious about what you do with your money.
Yeah.
And when you get serious about it, you don't know. Sometimes our children, they watch us more than they listen to us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you could be setting a standard for them to live by.
Wow.
And have a heart to give. That's one thing I know you guys have. We have. Try to. It's not only about everything has a motive of the heart. To have a chance to give. And I know it's hard for some people to do, but some give your time, give it your fun, however you do. My wife and I, we're involved in a lot of things, helping. We just adopted a family for Christmas, and we help the homeless. We ran into a guy that was homeless today. I was looking for him to give him something. and a retired pastor took him in, and now he's no
Wow.
longer home. And that blesses our heart to give back to the
Mhm.
community.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's very important. And one of the mottos that we have is if we keep our hands like this and we never open them up to give, then how God going to bless us if our hands
Absolutely.
are so tight and we're so stingy and
Yeah.
don't want to
Right.
give?
Yeah,
Right.
because I think the key thing is we're supposed to be a conduit.
That's
Not-
right.
That's how things supposed to flow through us, not
That's
held at with us. So
Oh yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
Always
Yes.
a giving. So
Well,
yep.
Ben and Victoria, look, from the money talk,
woo,
this
yes.
was an excellent money talk. Like
We
y'all
thank
even
y'all for
changed
having
my
us.
perspective on some
Oh
things.
yes.
And I just want to thank y'all
Oh, yes.
so much for giving us your time tonight. The interview was amazing, and I'm sure,
God bless you. All right.
yes, the information that y'all provided is going to be a blessing to someone else.
Amen.
Say
Absolutely.
anything?
No, I just want to thank y'all. I mean, because this was absolutely awesome. So thank y'all very much for y'all time, and we really appreciate y'all.
And thank you guys for what you guys are doing, man. This is a blessing, man. It really is, you know. Yeah, and that's God. God bless you. I don't know whose idea was this.
Well, hopefully
You
and
guys
prayerfully
came
God's
together.
going to use it to help others. So we'll
Yeah.
see, and we'll keep y'all posted.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, yeah, keep us posted. And thank you guys so much.
We
All
will.
right. God
Thank
bless
y'all.
y'all.
God bless y'all.
All
All
right.
right.
All
Bye.
right. Bye-bye.
Hello, hello. If you're still here with us, I hope that you enjoyed this interview. Ben and Victoria gave us so many nuggets. And right now, we are just now entering 2024. Our goal is to help you to get your money straight. Like not just your money, but your entire life holistically. Your
Yes.
spirituality,
Yes.
your emotions. Because what I've learned is our spending habits is based more so on our behavior versus how much we make. So for 2024, if you're following the Money Talk, I hope that you will subscribe to my channel so that you can get more encouragement. But I encourage you to start out with a budget. We're just not entering 2024. It's not too late for you to get yourself together. Get yourself a budget, get yourself a savings. Start trying to pay your debt off as soon as you possibly can. And then, like Mr. Ben says, you want to have a good life, you want to be prosperous. So don't be determined to be broke. And in being determined to be broke, is that mean you're living off credit cards and you're living off more than you can make. So from me and from the Money Coach and from the Money Talk, I would like to tell you Happy New Year. And I hope that you are
Happy New
encouraged to make 2024 much better for yourself and your finances.
Yes, and again, just a caveat on my wife, just interview with Ben and Victoria, preparation.
Yes.
Don't remember anything, remember preparation. So that start early and prepare throughout the course of your life to be able to retire well. And when you're able to retire well, you're able to enjoy that time that you have with your spouse, if you're not married by yourself, whatever the case may be with your family, whatever it is, but just prepare.
Right. And then too, remember one important piece that he mentioned also is that you need to prepare in advance. You and your spouse, or either you, if you're single, you need to decide like what age do you want to retire. You can't be 55 and then get 54 and say, okay, I want to retire when I'm 55 is what I mean. So plan ahead, prepare ahead. And again, from the Money Talk, we say, God bless you.
Yes.
We say Happy New Year.
Yes.
And if at any point you would prefer or like personal coaching from me, I'm the financial coach for Bartelle's Financial Coaching. Please reach out to me at my email and I will get back to you within the next 24 hours. So again, Happy New Year to all.
Happy New Year.
Yes, until next Thursday at Money Talk. We'll see you then. Subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Thanks. Bye.